If you're looking to bring more real-world STEM experiences for your students, then this episode is for you. To be honest, I had a hard time wrapping my mind around how to have guest speakers talk to my 500 plus STEM students, but I knew it was so important. During my fourth and fifth years teaching STEM, I found ways to get more meaningful guest speakers to talk to my students, and I really wish that I figured it out sooner. While this episode is a replay, all of the ideas still ring true, and I definitely wanted you to hear this because it is extremely important to have these STEM experiences when it comes to guest speakers for your students. I could talk to my students all day about the cool things that I have done and all the STEM things, but really it brings this whole other dimension when you have people who are in the field or who have been in the field and can share their perspectives as well. Funny enough, in the middle of this episode, I actually mentioned how I was in the midst of creating a STEM Career Day experience for my students and that I would figure out how to share it all with you. This was an in-person event that was 100% free that I created for my students that they attended during the school day at our very own school. We didn't have to travel anywhere. They just had to walk to certain locations, and we had parent presenters. It was such a hit. It all went smoothly. It was absolutely a wonderful time, and I'm going to share more episodes about that actual day, but I really don't want to keep it a secret any longer on how I set up this STEM Career Day experience. When I was doing the planning, I had you in mind this whole time, had my students in mind, but I had you in mind, and I saved every single email and template that I wrote along with the schedule and the management, so you wouldn't have to do all of the guesswork putting your own STEM Career Day together. You guys love the workshops that I hosted last year. Those were all created based on your input, and I am so excited for the launch of this brand new workshop, How to Host a STEM Career Day Experience. This workshop has a little bit of a different feel than the past workshops that I have hosted to help you learn on the go, and so you can fit this into your busy back to school, back from winter break schedule. This is an audio only workshop where I will break down the entire process, just like I do in my other workshops, of the planning, the organizing, and the hosting of your STEM Career Day event. And the cool thing about this is that you'll be able to hear me through this private podcast in your own time. You have no need to join in with me live. You'll have access to this at all the time and access to all the templates. If you are excited and ready to jump in, join me at naomimeredith.com/STEM Career Day Workshop for all the details on this exciting event. I am so excited to share this with you and how you can make this event super exciting for your students, and also in this episode, sharing why guest speakers are important to share with your students. Welcome to the Elementary STEM Coach Podcast, a show that'll help you with lesson ideas, systems, and actionable tips to apply to your classroom. I am your host, Naomi Meredith, a former classroom teacher turned current STEM teacher and coach. With over a decade of experience teaching and a master's degree in STEM leadership, I am here to coach you throughout the year to help you gain back more time to create innovative experiences for your students. Grab your earbuds and let's get started. It's important to have guest experts speak with your students in the STEM space. While the experiences that they are having in your classroom are super, super powerful, you can bring a whole other dimension to their learning by hosting guest experts. In fact, there are studies on this. According to an article written by event.org, they say that children should be exposed to role models who look, sound, or learn like them to help them gain confidence in their own ideas, abilities, and potential. They should also be exposed to role models who are different from them so that they respect the ideas, abilities, and potential of others. In today's episode, I'll be sharing with you 3 ideas of how to use guest experts in your STEM classroom. The first classroom guest speaker idea for STEM is to connect it to your class projects. This can be done in a few ways, and you can definitely use this for long-term projects or short-term projects. So maybe you are working on a project that lasts a whole week. Maybe you are working on something that lasts the whole year. You're building up to something for the whole year. A guest expert is a great experience for this. I know in a past episode when I was talking to a co-creator of Rock by Rock, we talked about guest experts quite often and how they use that in their curriculum. So make sure to go back and check out that episode because it was a really powerful episode and just some cool guest expert ideas that you can use in your lessons. When you have these guest experts and they're connecting to your lessons, you could have them come at the beginning of a lesson to help students build background about the topic. So we talk about in the imagine stage when we're doing the engineering design process or a similar type of process where you want students to build background about the information so it will inform their decisions when they are planning and creating their design. It's not just some random, let's build whatever thing, but their design is purposeful. So having an expert talk about their experiences and having a related project they might have done and what has worked well, what hasn't, maybe some research they are currently working on that will relate to the project. These would be some cool ways to really engage students and ask questions of somebody who is currently in that similar type of role. Another way you could use an expert, it could even be the same expert, is have them come in during the experience when students are building. So students might have researched and built background a different way, informed with their decisions, and then having this expert come in during that time is a really great way, again, for students to engage with that person. They might even have a different perspective than you as a teacher because they are working in a field that is similar to this. So they might even bring a really cool perspective on how students can improve their designs, and it might even just improve the overall project. And finally, another way that you could use the same expert or different is have them come in at the end of your experience and give students feedback on their designs. So this is a great way where students can share their work to a real life audience. And from there, that expert can share, wow, this would work really well, or I like how you thought of this design in this way. And here's some ways that you could definitely improve your design. And here's why based on my experience. This would be really powerful for kids to hear this type of feedback so they're not always hearing it from their peers or always hearing it from you as a teacher, but someone who really legit understands what is going on. That would be just a really neat experience for students to have in your classroom. Another classroom guest speaker idea for STEM that you can try is to have a STEM career day. This is something that I am in the background working on and hoping to host at my school in the spring. And it really came up very organically and randomly. I had a parent who volunteers at our school, who subs for us, who's super great. And she came in and we were chatting for a little bit. And she told me that in her past career, she was actually a packaging engineer. So they thought through the process of how things can be packaged in really purposeful and systematic ways. And she asked if she could come in and chat with the kids about her career. I told her, oh my gosh, I would love to have you. Logistically, it might be a little tricky because I want all the kids to hear from you. And we were talking a little bit more, and we came up with the idea how cool it would be to have a STEM career day where it would be an in-house field trip experience for all the kids in the school. Now, last year, we actually had to have a last minute inside recess day, and my PE teacher actually set up a really good rotation schedule where all the kids still got to participate in field day, but it was inside of the building. So I asked my PE teacher for that schedule because she already set it up. She even has rooms that are assigned where kids would rotate through. So I thought that this would be really helpful when I get to planning the STEM career day, because logistically, that way all the kids can experience this and hear from a ton of different experts in STEM in one day. And the reason why I'm also wanting to do this in the spring is we know the spring can get pretty crazy, and it can also be a little tricky as a STEM teacher. You don't always get to go on field trips. So you can bring the field trip to your school and a really awesome way to have community partners and parents be involved in this experience. Also, if you are doing this during the day, this can guarantee that more kids can attend. It'll probably be free. You don't have to worry about buses. And you don't have to spend any time, let's say at the nighttime, setting this up and people are coming back to school because that might not always be a possibility for all of the kids to attend. So that's why doing this during the day would be really awesome. When planning this, kids can rotate through 10 or so different careers in different rooms where the presenters can share a little bit about their jobs, how it relates to STEM, and even have a quick, engaging activity that they can do with the students. So, again, another cool way where kids can learn from their parents, each other's parents, see role models that are relevant and current in STEM fields, and help students even maybe dream of jobs that they never thought that they would have before. So stay tuned for future episodes. I'm definitely going to work this out and figure this out for my school. I think it'll be so much fun. I will figure out the process and figure out the kinks for you, and then we'll chat about it in a future episode. The last way of having a classroom guest speaker for your STEM space is to host a school-wide virtual assembly. Again, this is another great opportunity where you can have all classes involved. I hosted this past winter a school-wide virtual assembly for my school, and I'm definitely going to set another one up. And virtual was awesome. You could definitely do in person, but we did virtual for a couple reasons. The person who I had talked to our school lived a few hours away, and logistically, the weather was bad, so we just planned it as a virtual event. And also, the behavior management was way under control. I don't know about you, but my students haven't been to a lot of assemblies since COVID. We've had a few here and there, and they were absolutely chaotic. And there was a lot of parts of them that have been a waste of time. So when you do something virtual, you can jump right in. And the way that we did this is I was in my classroom. I didn't have any students, but I was handling all of the technology. So I was watching the chat. I was texting teachers who are having trouble getting into the Zoom. I had the presentation of the presenter pulled up just in case it wasn't going to work. And then I could jump in and do that, or I could fill in if there was a weird technical issue. So I was all on the technical side of this and had this all set up for my school. And then the students were in their homeroom classroom and they were watching this event live in their classroom. So again, this really helped with the behavior management. If there's students who needed a little bit of a movement break, they could do that. The first grade and kindergarten, I believe they watched the whole time, but if they needed to drop off at the end when we got to the question and answer session, they totally could do that. And there were even a few classes that were combined during this time. So if there was a sub for the day, they could combine classes, or I think just some classes combined anyway to make this experience. We also have 2 different assembly schedules at my school. So if this isn't something your school has, just logistically, it's nice to set up. So I didn't really have to manage all the times per se. We already have this type of schedule set up. So I just let people know, hey, this is coming up. I was promoting it. And we're going to have an afternoon assembly schedule. And here's where you're going to check in. I'm going to talk more in detail about this experience in the next episode. And this was really, really awesome for my school. It was with a U.S. Space Force captain, so a very new field in our world. And he's actually a computer engineer. So that was really awesome for the kids to hear from him. Now, if you're having a hard time finding people, then you could definitely think of other opportunities that are out there that are hosting live webinars. In a past episode, you actually heard the audio from a live webinar that I was able to participate in. And I got to be the host of this live webinar and interview an engineer at NASA who worked with the space rover Spirit and Opportunity. And that was actually her lifelong dream in middle school. And she's also still working at NASA, working with the current space rovers. This was an awesome opportunity. It was live, but it also is pre-recorded. So all that information will be linked in the show notes if you want to show this with your students. And I believe that this platform has other past webinars that you could check out. So this would be another cool way that you could bring this experience to your school. You could set it up as a virtual assembly, maybe even record the one that you're doing so you could use it for future years or a last minute sub plan. So it was a really awesome thing that I got to do with my classes. Very low behavior management. The teachers and students really liked it. At the time, we were actually learning about Earth and space. So this was actually a good connection with my K through 5 classes. It wasn't completely random. It was something that we were currently learning. And so it really tied it all together with this virtual assembly. Also, bonus points on this, if you do this a week before a break, like spring break, winter break, a long weekend, your classroom teachers are going to love you even more. So highly, highly recommend. I'm definitely going to do this again for my school. And just, again, another cool way for kids to learn from people in the STEM field. As a recap, here are 3 classroom guest speaker ideas that you can use in your STEM classroom. First, you can have experts come in to build connections to class projects that you're working on. Next, you can host a STEM career day. And third, you can set up a school-wide virtual or in-person assembly. I hope that all these ideas are getting your wheels turning and how you can make these bigger connections and experience for your students with the projects that you're hosting in your class. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Elementary STEM Coach Podcast. I would love to connect with you over on Instagram at NaomiMeredith_ or send me an email to elementarystemcoachpodcast@gmail.com. Also, make sure to check out my website, NaomiMeredith.com, to see all the show notes from today's episode and shop my K through 5 STEM resources. Any questions you have, needs for resources, or ideas for episodes, get in touch. I'll talk to you soon.